What's going on, guys? Smacky OG here, back with another video. Today I'll be talking about my wish list of characters I think we need in Marvel Rivals. I won't be talking about any of the leaked characters so far, like Ultron, Mr. Fantastic, or Cyclops. Instead, I'll break down all 15 of my choices. To add to this, I won't be including characters that could easily be made into skins for certain heroes, like War Machine, Miles Morales, or Agent Venom. I think that they're different enough to be put into the game, but even then, they're close enough to be made into skins, and I'm not sure what the devs want to do with them. I have a list of 5 duelists, 5 vanguards, and 5 strategists I want to see in Marvel Rivals. So, without further ado, let's get into it. To start off, I want to talk about the duelist first. My first pick, I think it's an obvious one, Deadpool. I'm surprised he didn't start off in the roster for a game like this. I would love to see his banter with other heroes and his synergies. He has guns, swords, and a whole lot of gimmicks that just work for a game like this. I would have to put him in the duelist category, and there's not much else to say except he needs to be in this game. Next, I want to see Daredevil. This is a fan favorite at this point. With Moon Knight being in the game and having Black Widow use her own batons, it would be easy to implement Daredevil's kit into the game. For one of his abilities, I definitely want to play into his blindness by using echolocation for his ultimate, or give him passive that can see enemies at low health through walls. This can be similar to Sombra's old passive from Overwatch, or Widowmaker's ultimate. Additionally, he should have a grapple to go to enemies or hook them in, similar to Winter Soldier. His kit is very up close and works perfectly as a duelist. With that, he should also implement high amounts of movement with his playstyle, similar to Spider-Man and Iron Fist. Someone who I would be super hyped to see in this game is Shang Chi as a duelist. We need someone to counter Iron Fist, and their synergy would be epic. The 10 rings can act similar to Iron Fist with very close-up combat, but more long-range options such as his ring expanding to hit opponents. He should also have a parry that charges a barrage of punches. He can play similarly to Ramatra in his Omnic form as his primary fire, where the rings extend, and he can have a charge shot as well as a parry. His ultimate can use the rings in a frenzy on anyone near him, and Shang-Chi is a perfect addition to Marvel Rivals as a duelist. Taking a look at some X-Men, I think Gambit would be a perfect duelist in this game. Not only does he have magic cards, but he has a bow staff for close range combat. He should play around throwing those cards that explode on impact, with abilities to hit enemies with his staff as well as have an AoE explosion with his cards. He can even do something similar to Star-Lord's barrage with his cards if people get too close, or a string effect where a deck of cards are thrown and bounce between enemies, exploding on impact with less damage but potential for more as the cards string together. Ending off the duelist with a bang and a fan favorite, I'm choosing none other than Ghost Rider. His chains and fire will be amazing primary fire, with so many abilities to choose from. He can use his pendant stairs and ultimate. He can even introduce his motorcycle since it's so iconic if the devs choose to do so. Honestly, there are so many ways they can make this character, and I would love to see what they do with him. Starting off the vanguards, I have a controversial pick. I want to talk about Green Goblin. We already have 3 Spider heroes, so let's bring in some of Peter Parker's villains. Green Goblin is one of, if not his most iconic villain. He can fly on his glider and throw pumpkin bombs. Honestly, I think he fits in all 3 roles. If you've seen the Ultimate Spider-Man show, Green Goblin looks like a tank with an electric gauntlet. If taken from that adaptation, he can be a vanguard. But I just as easily see him being a duelist or even strategist with his high mobility and damage output being swapped for heals if bombs are thrown at allies. However, I think making him this bulking behemoth on a glider with a gauntlet and bombs would be an interesting take on a vanguard that would work amazingly in this game. Now, I want to stir the pot a little by introducing Iceman as a vanguard. We already have a lot of the X-Men leaked in the game, but I think Iceman would actually play a huge role as a vanguard. He should be able to make ice walls similar to Groot, create ice clones, and even have a way to freeze the floor to move faster on it. By making him have less damage output, he can really be a vanguard in this game, with primary fire consisting of either a beam of ice or projectiles that can shoot and damage opponents, similar to May's 2 primary fires. His ultimate should be called Absolute Zero, where he can freeze the enemy team with an AoE Ice Dome, but essentially stuns them immediately instead of waiting for them to freeze like May's ultimate. I think he can really work as a vanguard in this game. The next character I want to bring up is again a Spider-Man villain. Sandman would work perfectly as a vanguard in this game. He has enough bulk, can pummel his opponents, and even has the special abilities to make his arms into different weapons like hammers. He can set traps that hold enemies in quicksand, set up sand walls to block off enemies, and even turn into sand to disappear similar to Jeff the Shark. But this should be on a cooldown instead of a passive ability. His ultimate consists of a quicksand AoE where it stuns everyone around him, similar to Groot, and holds them in the ground so your team can do damage. Sandman would work great as a vanguard in my opinion. I doubt anyone would think of as a vanguard is Black Bolt. Him being an Inhuman can bring in so many characters to the game. His electron manipulation can be used in so many different ways. Yes, his kit revolves around speaking, but that would be amazing to see as a primary fire, something to slow enemies down, or even in his ultimate to pretty much insta-kill squishies. He can create force fields around himself and his team. He can also target enemies and shut down their powers for a short period of time. This should not be as strong as Sombra's hack, but play in a similar manner where he uses his voice and electromagnetism to shut down cooldowns for a few seconds. Black Bolt would be super dope to see in the game as a vanguard. The last vanguard I want in the game is Silver Surfer. Yes, I already brought up Green Goblin on a glider, but this dude is broken. He's one of the strongest entities in all of Marvel. Bro casually makes black holes and can destroy planets with his cosmic powers. With that being said, I want him to have cosmic radiation bolts for his primary fire. He should also be able to give shields to his team. Gliding on his board would be sick, especially on surfaces and walls, and incorporating this into his abilities as a shield would be awesome. His ultimate should just be a black hole that does insane AoE damage and pulls nearby enemies towards it the closer they are to it due to its gravitational force. Finally, I want to talk strategists. I wanted to bring in Vision as one. Since Ultron is already in the game, we know this through the leaks, I think it's fair to assume that Vision will be likely to come as well. He already acts as a support character in the MCU, and I would love to see that implemented here. Vision should be able to fly like Iron Man, but also have a Soul Stone beam as his primary fire. He can also heal with this. His abilities can include a density alteration that increases his health pool, and an ability that works well with technology similar to how Ultron will have healing drones. I believe Vision providing a shield to himself or allies that boosts his strength the more damage absorbed would be a nice touch with the Soul Stone that works with his kit. I think Vision would work great as a strategist, but I could see him easily swinging between the three roles if the devs don't want repetitiveness with Ultron. Next on the list is Nightcrawler. A lot of people probably assume he'd be a duelist with his prehensile tail and swords, but I think he would fit better as a strategist. His teleport would be his main ability, being able to teleport not only his teammates, but also enemies. He can attack with his swords and tail as previously mentioned. I'm not entirely sure how they would introduce his healing, but the devs can be creative with it. His ultimate can consist of healing his allies while teleporting around and doing something similar to Psylocke's ultimate where you move him around and he automatically attacks the enemies. I think Nightcrawler would be an interesting addition as a strategist. Since we're talking about questionable strategists, why not bring up Quicksilver? I think he would play similarly to Nightcrawler, replacing the teleportation with high mobility dashes around enemies and teammates. He can deflect projectiles by having an ability that can conjure up a tornado or just a quick dash that deflects. He should be able to move and reposition teammates as needed. His ultimate can be seen as overpowered, but I think he should be able to manipulate time being a speedster and all. Basically, everyone slows down in his point of view and he speeds up. He can deal damage by dashing to opponents and punching them, and can even make tornadoes as previously mentioned. He can also heal allies as needed with his speed, time, and tornado abilities. I think he would be a unique strategist and would love to see his synergies and abilities come to life. The next strategist I want to bring to the game is Nova. He can fly around the map, has energy projectiles that can heal and do damage. He should be able to provide shields, and the more damage he takes, the higher his damage output should be. He's a risky strategist as he can convert the kinetic energy to deal more damage as a passive ability. Basically, more risk, more reward. He can have a charge shot, and his ultimate can use his gravity manipulation to grab enemies and slam them down, similar to Sigma from Overwatch. Nova is a flying character and would be able to counter the likes of Storm and Iron Man. I think he'd be one hell of a strategist to add to the game. At last, we have the final pick in the whole game. The last strategist I would add to Marvel Rivals is Mysterio. We already have 2 Spider-Man villains as vanguards, so why not shake things up a bit? Mysterio relies on his technology and magic abilities. He can fire a projectile to either damage enemies or heal allies. One of his abilities should allow him to essentially drop a smokescreen of green mist where enemies take damage and allies are healed. Mysterio should also be able to float when falling, similar to Namor. Another ability should allow him an escape option, which turns him into mist. He can still be shot at like Jeff the Shark, but this is on a cooldown and not unlimited. His ultimate basically summons a bunch of drones that essentially clone Mysterio and replicate what he does. They have insanely small health pools, but revealing him would be the main Mysterio. This should last a decently long time with, I would like to say, anywhere from 5 to 10 Mysterios appearing, and they can all heal allies or damage opponents. Similar to Mirage from Apex Legends, where he spawns clones of himself, but these can actually do damage and heal. If you have cooldowns, only the true Mysterio's cooldowns do damage and heal, whereas the others are just an illusion. These were my 15 picks for who I think would be in Marvel Rivals and would be very interesting characters. Let me know if you agree with my thoughts, or feel free to disagree with them. These are all just my opinion. I have not done a full deep dive on each character and what I think their abilities should be and how they should work, since I'm not a dev and I play this game casually. If you want me to make full-blown videos on character concepts for different Marvel heroes and villains, let me know down in the comments. I definitely enjoyed making this video. Keep your eyes on the lookout for my next videos on alternate costumes I think should be in the game for all 33 characters on launch. I have more videos coming out, so stay tuned.